Okay, great. So let's start. So let me also share my screen. Share screen. System. Put it here. Bring it to the side. And one last thing. Tutorials whiteboard. Okay. So what is the agenda for today? So yesterday we started our discussion on OOPS, right? And here we understood that the core part of OOPS is that first of all it's called object oriented programming. So as the name says that everything inside this, right, revolves around object. What is an object? We understood that we have a class in terms of Java, right? It is like class. You may have something, and if you wanted to work on it, you will have to create an object of it, which is like a copy of this class, right? You get your own copy, and now you can have variables which will be holding your data, right? And your methods which will be holding your code, right? So this is what object is. An object is something which can where you can hold data in forms of the variables, and you can write your logic or code inside the method. Okay, so this is what object is. Now we tried to understand yesterday. Fizula mentioned about some of the terms like imperative, declarative, right, and other things. So I did went on the net and try to understood like what really these are. So first of all, let me okay, let me say that these are like first of all these are termed as paradigm. Okay, paradigm. Okay, this is just an approach, right? This is just the approach which a language would be supporting. Okay, so I mean it's not that our language can be either a imperative or declarative, although earlier that was the case, that when whatever languages were coming up, right, they were either falling in this category or that category. But nowadays I think that line is getting blurred and things are moving from here and there. So what happens is that even a language like Java, right, is almost like behaves like both the things. I'll tell you like why it is, right? But again, you do not have to go inside this to understand like what these are, or because see, you would find okay. Let me give you the example. The imperative, first of all, this is the main boundary, right? Imperative versus declarative. Inside the imperative, I saw on the net that they say that there are two of them, right? One is procedural, okay, and second is the oops. So both of them falls under the imperative approach, right? So and when it comes to declarative, right, there were a couple of names, but the one which I which is I think which people would have heard is functional programming. Okay, so this is a part of declarative approach. Now when we talk about Java, where does Java fits in? Java, we know that it's a oops thing, so definitely it's a part of imperative here. Okay, but with the introduction of Java 8, right, and getting access to lambdas and streams, here you're getting the access to this function, to the world of functional programming also. Okay, so now in a way Java is imperative in nature, but it also supports declarative, right, this paradigm also by using that thing, right? But it is not complete declarative. It is not that. It's, you can consider it's like a partial one, because it does not support everything which a declarative language should have. Again, there was a 10 or 20 kind of list over there, which I don't think makes any sense for anyone to understand. But but I will still show you, right, what was the list which I was saying, right? And what is, I mean, this is the part, right? So when we talk about Java, this is the case. It's definitely an imperative paradigm which it supports, and the kind of programming it follows is oops, right? It's not procedural, it's oops, right? And then you when we talk about from the declarative side, right, it is not 100% declarative, it is just a partial part of it. And how does it achieve it? By doing on this part, because of this thing, functional programming, because now you can achieve functional programming in Java also with the help of the lambdas and streams which you get here, right? Now, see, oops, we understood what is oops, right? Procedural, again, see, to understand like the like how procedural language is or oops is or how functional is, you can only understand when you would work on such kind of concepts. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to understand like what these are. if you go by the literal meanings, right, which they mention, that procedural is what that you specify, let's say, uh, I mean, with respect to the procedures by step by step. But then you can say, okay, even in OOPS, right, when you're writing the logic, it is step by step only. So what is the difference there? Right. So again, I'm saying it would not be very clear. The boundaries will not get very clear because declarative languages, I was seeing that there are the names of all the declarative languages, which are pure declarative, was someone like who were like the legacy kind of languages there. We have never worked on it, so we don't know like how do they look like or how do they work. So again, it is not in a good discussion that we go there because we will not be able to understand it. But let me just show you imperative. But for the Java part, right, we should understand Java is an imperative. Java follows imperative paradigm, and it supports OOPS programming, right? And now with the introduction of Java 8, and we got the access to Lambda instance, we also can use functional programming. Now, what is functional programming? That is a different topic, which we will talk about, which we will touch upon actually, right? When we talk about our lambdas and streams, I'll try to touch upon it and try to explain you what does it really mean, right? But let's first get this. Okay, it always opens up this. I don't need. There was a Geeks for Geeks link where it was explaining this. So this one. So if you would see, right, these are the what is a paradigm? Is an approach to solve problems using some programming languages, or we can say it's a method to solve a problem using tools and techniques that are available to us. Again, nothing of that makes sense, right? Doesn't Nothing of these words explains like what is the paradigm. But again, I am understanding that these are different strategies which a programming language has to decide that okay, I will work in this way, I will work in that way, and based on it, they get classified under these two, right? But what are the different programming ways, right, which are part of it? So you can see procedural and object oriented programming are part of imperative, and functional programming is a part of declarative, right? And Java fits here, object oriented programming. So Java is a part here, right? Now it says that what is imperative programming is a type of programming that describes how the program executes. How the program executes. So how do you do it? You write your steps there, right? And then you mention okay, what really you want to do. But I believe that is what you will be doing in the other case also. Without writing anything, how will you be able to proceed it? So you can see, right, the examples they are giving it is Fortran, Java, C, C++ are examples of imperative programming. What are declarative programming? They are saying is a type of programming that describes what programs should be executed. What programs should be executed? What does that mean? I mean, someone has to write that program, right? Or is it like someone has already written it and people are going to just use them? See, we will never know actually. If you see what are the languages which supports this, you can see Miranda, Erlang, Haskell, Prolog, right, are a few popular examples of declarative programming. I have never worked on them. I don't know like what these are, and I do not have an insight of it. Like, what is really the meaning difference between these two? So from here, I cannot make out. Yes, Fizla, please.
Is SQL a part of declarative programming?
No, I was reading it. SQL is no. I was thinking that SQL is a part of procedural programming because you define procedures there, right? I mean, it's a based on sequence. So, but again, it is not even procedural programming. So it is not fitting in any of this. So it was something else. They were saying that they were giving some other name for it. It is not a part of OOPS. It is not a part of procedural. It is not a part of imperative or declarative here. They were giving some other name to it. I can
Okay, okay, got it.
SQL is procedural programming, procedural or not, right? Even I try to look for it. Although it has some procedural elements, it says it's a declarative language. It is non-procedural. This means while coding, you will not be interested in how you want the job to be done. The focus is on what results you want to obtain. Okay, they are saying it's a declarative. Okay, the one link which I was reading was saying it is not it. Okay, it says what makes SQL a non-procedural language because it is a function-based language that generates a procedure for the input operations execution. No, it does not make at least it does not make a sense to me. Okay, okay. If I have a better understanding on it, which I really doubt I will have, so I can update. But as of now, just let's focus on this part that there are two types of paradigm entirely. I mean, on a global scale, like imperative and declarative. And inside imperative, we have certain subtypes of it, which are procedural and oops, and Java fits in oops. Okay, and now with the introduction of lambdas and streams, it also gets some flavors of functional programming. Right now, so over here, right, they are saying all this blah blah blah, and they are saying here it says how it is to be done, what is to be done, right? When I'm reading this, what is to be done, I'm trying to understand what does it really mean. Does it really mean that the logic to process it is already in that case? Then we have to understand that that the logic, right, to process things is already written by someone. That's really mean. You're just saying that do that. You're telling like what to really do, right? And how to really do it. That is what declarative means. And if they are saying that this is what SQL means, I don't know. We'll have to see. Okay. Now let's talk about that other part.
I get confused with this.
Mhm.
The what and how element has always been there in any language now. For example, if you have to calculate a sum of two
Mhm.
numbers, now what and how, both things are, I mean, you implement both things, right? You tell a language as to what you are doing and how you are doing, right? So I mean, I could be off on this, but then I fail to get this.
I mean, I can think of declarative programming as I was reading that when again I search this, right, it says it's a declarative language. When I try to understand this, right, if anyone has worked with SQL, right, you remember that there is a sequence of like if you have to write a select query, right, in SQL, or any query in SQL, right, there is a definite path, right, which you have to use. It's not that you can just mix and match things and start typing it, but try to understand there, using that select keyword, using that where keyword, using that inner join or outer join, right? All these keywords, I mean, they would do something, right, to whatever you're providing as an input to them. And how they're doing it, you don't care. I mean, we don't care, right, how it is doing that stuff, let's say, right? And again, we are not writing that logic that how to perform an auto join. We are relying on SQL that it knows how to do it, and it will bring some output to us if we provide some data to it, right? So in that case, I can understand that they're saying that the logic of performing a outer join, a logic of using some filtering, using the conditions there, right, and all of that. So there, the internal part of it is already taken care by the developers of SQL, right? So you are in how, I mean, you're getting there some of the inputs like that. Okay, we have taken care of these parts, right? Just you just worry about the data part or the tables part which you want to work with, right? The rest of the things are already taken care by SQL. You don't have to know like how does SQL works on or creates outer join, right? Although it is good for the understanding, but you are not designing it, it is already designed. So if that is what it means, then I understand. Okay, declarative is something which is already where you are going to use things which are already defined. But in that case, if that is the part, right, there are helper libraries, right, which we get in every language. Let's say Java also. Let's say we have a maths library here, right? You will get every method here, and we are just going to use them. If that is the part, then it becomes a declarative thing approach there, right? But again, I myself get confused, so I cannot comment much on it. But this is what it is. Okay. But let's just focus on procedure and oops, right? Let's try to see if we can get that understanding here. That thing makes some sense. Okay, the oops part, this one, this link. Okay, if you would see this, right, which is derived from structured programming. Do we know what is the full form SQL? SQL stands for structured query language only, right? Structured. And now they are saying that procedural programming is something which is derived from structured programming. So I was of the opinion that SQL is a procedural programming, is a part of procedural programming. But now they said, right, when we were reading, it said that SQL is declarative programming. Again, it is trying to confuse, right? right? SQL there, it's a definitive structure there that you have to write this only first and then the second. If you want to write a select query, it is not that you will start writing with where clause. No, you have to start with select query, right? There is a definite structure there which you have to follow. Although we will cover all of that in our boot camp, but again, try to understand it's a structure there, right, which you follow there. So if we go by that definition, then I'm again get confused that okay, it says, so as per this definition, it seems like your SQL is a procedural language, but there it was saying that SQL is a declarative language where procedural programming is not a part of. So so that is the part, but let's leave it. Let's go down, and you can see, right, languages used in object oriented programming: Java, C++, C sharp, PHP, JavaScript, right, and all this, right? So Python, Java, and JavaScript, which most of us would be using, are already there, and even C sharp, right? So everything over here is a part of oops only. How and how well they implement it could be a matter of subjectivity, but again, with respect to Java, we implemented using in the forms of objects, which are the copies of your classes. Okay, and if you go at the table here, right, it shows like procedural programming, oriented programming. The program is divided into smaller parts called functions. Okay, in object oriented programming, the program is divided into smaller parts called objects. This is making sense, but then if this is what it means, right, then does it mean that procedural programming is equivalent to functional programming? I even googled that. Then again they said that no, there is a difference again. So again, more confusion. So I'm not going there, but again, let's see here. Let's move ahead. So it says there is no access modifier in procedural programming. Okay, it says it has. So yes, there are. Adding new data in functions is not easy. It is easy here. It is less secure. You cannot perform hide. You cannot hide the data. Here we can use hiding the data. Overloading is not possible. Overloading is possible, and all of this, right? Data hiding, inheritance is not possible. It is possible, and all of that. So what it is saying is that all the concepts which oops brings to the table, which are inheritance, abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, which is in itself has two components: overriding, overloading, right? All of that becomes possible if you use oops concepts, and if you try to use procedural programming, it does not have any of those, right? Okay, let's get to the crux of it. The crux is that if you talk about Java, Java is an imperative language. What does imperative really means? As per them, they're saying that you tell how to do, how to achieve the objective. You mention that path, right? If that is what your language supports, then it is called as imperative language. Now, what exactly is the difference between imperative and declarative? At least I am not clear. Okay. If we move ahead, we talk about the sub branches within imperative. It is procedural and object oriented. Again, it is saying when you talk about procedures, you will not be talking about objects, rather, you will be talking about functions, right? And if you're talking about oops, then you will be talking only about objects. You will be talking in terms of objects, right? That okay, this object interacted with the other object and all that. And what does oops implement or provides as a feature? We already saw. We have four different pillars there: abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. Okay, so for us, the learning should be that we are under this bucket, imperative bucket, and here this is the specific bucket which our language is a part of. But there is some boundary from declarative, which we are also getting inside the Java language now. Okay, so this is the crux of it. This part is the crux part of it. Okay, I think this is enough, right? We do not need to go inside this. It will not make much of a difference in our understanding at unless and until we start exploring declarative language. Okay, which we are not which we are not okay to do with. Okay, so let's move ahead. Okay, so again, let's come directly to the benefits of or the different pillars we have in the oops concept, right? So we talked about we have four pillars. One of the pillars which we are going to discuss today is inheritance. Okay, although we saw yesterday like how inheritance works, but let's talk it about this again. So again, as I said yesterday, right, inheritance, even if you go by the literal meaning of it, it means that if you want to, that it is something that you inheriting from your ancestors, right? So if you consider a real world example, let's say your grandparent, right? The grandparent, has a property, right? So they have a property and they named that property to your parents, right? So I mean, your parents also possess it, right? See, this is something which belongs to your grandparent, right? But because of the inheritance part, your parents will get that property, right? And similarly, you will get that property from your parents, right? So this is what inheritance means, right? You get the assets which you did not created, but you are getting them from your ancestor hierarchy. And this is similarly again, see, why oops is so good is that because you can then translate your real world things into programming world, right, using concepts like this. So even in this case, right, if we talk about we keep talking about animal class, right? So see, animal, why I keep doing it, because it's a good example. See, animal class is this, right? Within animal, who all are the animals, right? There are different types of animals. So I can broadly club everything into a single umbrella and say that's okay, everything is a part of animal. Okay, now animal, let's say, I will say that okay, all the animals, let's say, can walk, all the animals can talk, right, in whatever language they have, but they can talk, right, they speak to each other, right? So it is walk, talk, eat, right? These are all, let's say, the common part, right, which every animal will have, right? Now, so these are the methods here, right? Let's say these are the different methods here which every animal will have. So what I'll do is, if I want to create an animal, what I should do is, again, let's say I'm talking about a dog, I'm talking about a lion, right, I'm talking about let's say uh, elephant, right? So all these are different animals here, right? And let's say within dog also we have different types of dogs, right? Different types of dogs. Similarly, let's say lions are of different types, let's say African lion, Indian type lion, right, and all that. And similarly the elephant's part, right, there could be multiple different types of it. So you can understand the hierarchy, how the hierarchy is forming. It is forming like this: animal getting, I mean, animal being the super class of everything, right? And then you have some childs within it, and within that child you can have another child. Similarly, even let's say this also has some childs, right? So this is what is called as inheritance tree, right? If you look at this thing, right, who's the parent? This is the parent. If you look at who's the grandparent, this is the grandparent. Who is the parent of the grandparent? This is the parent, right? So you can traverse through your inheritance tree to find out like who is related to whom, right, and what is the relation between them, right? And as following the inheritance tree, you will, as a child, right, you will possess anything which your parent had, anything which your grandparent had, and anything above them would have inherited, right? You will as a node here, right, you will inherit everything from the top. If for this person, it will inherit from this and this, right, and whatever it creates by itself, right? Similarly, for animal, this is the only part which it will have. It will not have anything which a dog has or which these are having, right? Like if you consider in today's world, right? So I mean, in real world also, your grandparent had a house, right? But let's say you created, you build your own farm, let's say, right? It is not that if you built it that your grandparent will also get access to this. No, right? They do not get the ownership rights of it, right? It is not that they have access to it, right? It is what they had access to is what they created, right? Your parents also, right? Your parents also has what they received from their parent, right, or which they would have created by themselves. But what you created is not part of theirs, right? Because that is how inheritance works, right? It goes from top to the bottom, right? It is not the other way around. Okay. So similarly, we will see that this is also true in the programming world also, at least specifically in Java. And that is where that casting thing will come in. And I will try to explain that. Okay. Okay. How do we create inheritance in Java? We understood yesterday. Let's say we have a class, public class, let's say animal only, right? We create a class. This is like a normal class which can have some variables, string name here, and let's say walk as a method here, right? Now this is a normal class, nothing, it is not inheriting from anyone, But I told you yesterday, if that every class is like a child, right? Or is something which is derived from your object class. So even if you have not created this class as a child of someone, right, if you have not done it, by default it becomes a child of whom? It becomes a child of object class, which is like the super parent of everyone in the Java world. Okay, right? But let's talk about this. So let's say that I want to create a dog class which would be the child of animal class. So how to do it? I will just simply create a normal class. How we do it? But after this, we have to just use the keyword extends, and I will write animal here. Okay. Now, what this dog got being a child of this animal, whatever you had here, right? So even if you don't write anything, right, the dog still has access to whatever your animal had, right? All this, right, everyone? Now, one more rule in Java. Java does not support multiple inheritance. A child can only have one parent. Remember that rule, okay? This is a very strict rule in Java. A class, a class cannot have multiple parents. In some of the languages, they support multiple inheritance, but in Java, it is not the case. What happens is the Java supports only single inheritance, that a child will only have one parent. Okay, so a dog can have only animal, right? If I try to create, let's say I have another class human here. If I try to see that, okay, let me create dog a child of both animal and human, this is not possible here. It will start complaining. It will say this is not allowed. Compiler will start complaining. Okay. So what Java allows is Java does not allow multiple inheritance. Okay. It does not allow. Right. Yes, Fizula,
Yeah,
please.
I just add a point over here.
Yeah, please.
Actually, there's a problem that leads because of this multiple inheritance. The diamond problem, I guess, right?
Yes, yes. There is, right? There is. And we will talk about it, but it would require some time. But I will talk about it, right? Okay.
So it
Right.
was asked in one of my mock interview actually. I still remember
Right.
that.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is, see, you in your program, see, again, this is a very important point which Fizula mentioned, right? About the interview, when you sit for an interview, right? People check like what is the depth of knowledge you may have in the respective topic, right? So again, as she mentioned, this is a very favorite topic, right? When it comes to when someone is asking you on the core concepts of Java, people will ask you, okay, does Java supports multiple inheritance? You can say, see here, right, I just told you it does not, right? But I also told you that even if you don't let's say, even if you don't extend any class, right, you by default get inherit you by default inherit from object class. So I told you object class is the parent of every class, right? Almost, not almost, it is the fact, right? Object class is the parent of every class which you may have in Java. But I told you multiple inheritance is not allowed. So you may ask me, Akhil, I can see public class dog extends animal. So this is one parent. I can see this parent, which you mentioned here. And you also said that object is a parent of dog also. Is it clicking that thought process there? What I'm saying, right? Now I have two parents. Is it right what I'm saying? I told you that the rule in Java is any class you create, it would by default become the child of the object class. Okay, and here Java also provides you a mechanism where you can extend another class so that that class can become your parent. But again another rule is Java cannot have multiple inheritance. Does anyone know like what is the catch here? The
Uh,
catch is, yeah, please just one, yeah.
no, is it that only for the object class it's an exception?
Sorry,
Like, is it that only for the object class it's an exception that you can have multiple and
no,
no?
no, that is not
Okay.
the case. That is not the case.
if it is two classes, if it is inheriting two classes, if the two classes have the same common method with the same method name, it will confuse which method it should be invoked. That is the main reason.
No, that is the reason why multiple inheritance should not be allowed, which I get,
Allowed, yeah.
right? But we are asking like that. I am saying that every class in Java is by default the parent of, I mean, is a child of object class, right? And I also said that you can also extend your class, right, and make someone else as a parent, right? And I also said multiple inheritance is not allowed, which is still true. Here also multiple inheritance is not allowed. Okay. Okay, let me get to the point. What I'm trying to say is, stay here. You see, in animal class, I did not extended this, right? I did not purposefully extended this. So it is a standalone class. And then by default, what happens is you can read it like this. It will happen like this. Java will do what Java will do internally. Java will do something like this. Extends object. Okay, everyone. So this is what internally happens. So every class you create, you can consider that Java is adding these kind of keywords after this, right? So now your animal becomes a child of object class. But if you yourself has added an extends keyword and you try to import, I mean, you try to make someone else your parent, right? What is happening in that case? In that case, your parent would not be your direct parent, right? This object would not be your direct parent. But what is your direct parent? Animal is your direct parent. Let's see the structure here. I said that object class is the parent of everyone, right? This is the root class in Java, right? Let's say that I created a class animal, right? And I did not edit any of these extends keywords. But by default, what will happen is it will become a child of animal object, right? It will become the, sorry, animal will become the child of object class, right? Like this. Now I said that I'm trying to create another class of dog. Let's say I did not extend this, right? Let's ignore this. I just write public class dog. If I do it this way, what will happen? This will become a direct child of object class, right? Again, you can see animal has only one parent, dog has one parent. But if you add public class dog extends animal, what is happening here? You are creating a child of animal with the name as dog here, right? So where the dog would be residing? Not here. It would be residing here
Under the animal.
under the animal, right? So dog resides here. But so now in this case, it still follows the single inheritance rule. Dog is a child of animal, but animal is a child of object. So in a way, directly or indirectly, all your classes, right, are inheriting from object class. Is it getting? Does it make sense now? Why I'm saying that, right? I hope this is making sense, right? If you yourself if you do not do anything, right, if you do not extend thing, then it becomes a direct class of object. If you don't do it and if you extend purposefully some other class, right, then what will happen? It will sit inside it. But your parent class may be directly or indirectly a child of object, right? So what you if you would draw the hierarchy tree, right, you would find that object is always sitting at the top and your class which you created is somewhere down the hierarchy tree there, right? It could be a direct child also, it could be an indirect child, but it will be a child of object class. Okay, I hope this is clear. Let's
Yes.
do some hands-on on it, right? Again, object thing we have already covered, so I will not cover that object thing, but my objective here is to cover the inheritance. How do you create parents and how do you create childs, right? And let's try to formulate one hierarchy which I will create like this. I will create an animal, I will create a dog and a lion, and inside the dog maybe I'll create two other classes, right, like this, and within the lion also, right? So let's create this hierarchy so that things can be clear. Or let me do one more thing. Why to make this, right? Let's bring some learnings, right, which we will have as part of our automation journey. Let's talk about selenium. In selenium, you know that, right? I'm sure like people who have worked with selenium, they know that if they have to work with a browser, they would need a driver, right? They would have to create an instance of the driver. So let's say that I have what we say, uh, let's say my parent class which I will create is a browser. Okay, a browser class. Inside the browser, I will create two families of browsers. One is the Chromium based browsers. Okay, Chromium based browser, and the other could be some other browsers. Let's say non Chromium, right? I don't know what are those could be. Let's say, but let's say these are right within the Chromium browser. Let's say what I'll do is I will create. So Chrome is one such browser which follows the Chromium guidelines, right, or uses that pasting to develop the higher version of it. And let's say what could be the other one? I think Firefox is also Firefox is a Chromium one.
Edge.
Edge, right? Yes, Edge. I think yes, the right Edge. I'm not sure, but let's say right. Let's say that this is the case, right? And within non-Chromium, let me write. Let's say Safari. I don't know. Am I saying right or wrong? But and let me add Opera also. Okay. Again, I will have to check, but what I'm saying is right or wrong. But as of now, just understand this way, right? So I'm creating a browser, and within the browser, I have two types of categories of browser: Chromium and non-Chromium based. And within Chromium, I have these, right? Let us try to create this kind of hierarchy. How to create this? So, okay, I have not created a branch for today. Let me create it. Checkout minus p day 14. Now on day 14, let's try to create a class, and the class would be browser, right? Browser class. And let's say I will add some methods here. I will add a method like public. Okay, let's first draw it on the board here, right? Let's write it here. Browser is what, right? Let's say whatever you wanted to do was let's say you wanted to open the URL, right? Every browser will help you to open the URL of a website. So let's say this is one of the methods which you will have. What else? Open browser. Let's say maximize the browser, right? Let's say these are the two methods which all your browsers have. So let's say we will add these two methods here. In the case of Chromium browser, right? Let's say I will have the inspect kind of a feature which I want to have in Chromium. So I will get it here. Let's say in non-Chromium, we have a UI inspect, let's say some other feature, right? Let's say. So this is like CLI inspect, and this is like a UI inspect feature. Inspection is like you right click on an element and you can see the HTML code and all things on it, right? Let's say that this is kind of a feature there. In the Chrome browser, right? Let's say we have DevTools, which you can use. Okay. And in the case of Edge, let's say Edge tools, let's cite this. Okay. And here in the case of Safari, let's say it has a feature of performance. I don't know actually. Let's say, and Safari, let's say Apple, right? Apple capability. Safari is a product of Apple, right? I believe.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, just a second. Huh? Just a second. Sorry. Okay, I was saying about Opera, right? So let's say Apple and let's say what we say. Let's say per table, right? Let's say it generates something like this, right? Let us try to create this kind of feature. Let me just move it to the right hand side, or let me just put it here. Okay, I cannot do it. Okay, let me put it on the right hand side. Okay, let's very quickly create it. I will create one method on browser which is open URL. So I will create public void open URL, and let's say it says uh, browser is open. Okay, browser is open, and let's say this is the only method. Okay, let's not create much methods, and let me create now another class. I wanted to create a Chromium class, right? Chromium class, which would be extends browser class, right? So this is how you make someone as a parent. You write extends here, and what you will do, I will add a method here, CLI inspect, right? So let's say public void CLI inspect, let's say, right? And I will write here CLI inspect thing, right? And let me also do one thing. Let me just add here, like once you've been invoking, we should be knowing this is coming from which class. So I'm writing Chromium here, and this should be good. Okay, so this is one of the class. Now for the browser, let me create another class which would be known Chromium, and I will again extend that class as from the browser class. All right, and here I will add a method as UI inspect, public void UI inspect, and here I will type UI inspect, and let me write the class name known Chromium, and this. Okay, and I think we're good. And now for the Chromium class, I need to create one child. Let me create one child, Chrome. Here I create a Chrome class, which would be a child of whom? It will be a child of Chromium browsers, right? Chromium. So I did this, and I will add a new method to it. Let's say public void DevTools, and here it is a part of Chrome class. It's a part of Chrome class, and here it will say DevTools here. Okay, now we did all this Chromium, Chrome, and all, and let us create one more class, Edge. So Edge is a again a child of Chromium class, and here I will do what? I will here add public void Edge tools. Okay, and I will type here that this is coming from the edge class, and this is the edge tool here. Okay, I think what I have drawn is I've drawn something like this. I have drawn a browser. I have drawn Chromium and this. So I have this method and this method. I have not added this. I have this method, and here I've added this class and this class, and here I have these two. Okay, I think this is sufficient. So I have created something like this. So this is the path which I've created. Now let's see like what can we access where, right? Now let me create one class through which I will be making some invocations, and let's write here inheritance demo. Inheritance demo. Okay. Now let's create a magic method, main method, and inside this, right? Let's try to start creating some instances. Let's create the instance of our the super parent, which is what? Browser here, at least in this case. But there's a parent above browser also. Which is that parent? Object, right? Everyone? Object is the parent of browser. Even in this case, right? You can see, right? Chrome is extending this, so we wrote this. But browser is the child of whom? Object class, right? So see, any class you created is anyhow directly or indirectly a child of object class. So that is true, right? So let's move ahead. So here, right, I will first create the instance of a browser class. How do you create an instance of a class? You write the class name left hand side, then the variable name equals to new, and then the class name again. So if I have to create an instance of the browser class, I will do something like this: b1 equals to new browser, right, everyone? This is how we have learned, right? We write class name here, then a variable name, then equal to new, and then the variable name again. Let's do the other thing. If we now have to create the Chromium thing, right? So I will write Chromium. If I have to create the object of it, Chromium, let's say c1 equals to new chromium here. If I have to create the instance of the chrome class, I will write chrome, let's say ch here, equals to new chrome. And if I have to create the instance of the non chromium, so let me say non chromium nc equals to new non chromium. And now after this, we will create an edge class, right? So let's create the edge class also. Edge e1 equals to new edge, right? This is how we have learned. If we have to create the instance of a class, we create instance like this. Left hand side and right hand side, in both the cases, the name of the class is same, right? So let's talk about that also. So what I am saying is the syntax looks like this. You write class name on the left hand side. You write here the variable name, whatever you want to give, and then you write equal to, then the new keyword, and then you again provide a class name. Does anyone have a question like why do we need to provide class name on both the sides? Here we understand, again we have to understand, right? Here on the left hand side, because this is how Java works. Any variable you create, right, you need to tell Java like what kind of data it will be holding. So here we are saying this variable name would be holding a data of class name. The data type in this case is class name here, custom data type, right? Remember we talked about it. And why do we need to create a new after this? Maybe ideally the Java would have allowed something like this, let's say only new and this, and seeing the class name, it should have created the object of the class name which is mentioned on the left hand side. But Java does not allow this. Java says no, this is what you have to write. So it seems like this part over here is like a duplicate part here, right? Does this thought, I mean, has this thought came to you? No. Okay, I think I'm the crazy one, right? Then, okay, so let's see why it is that, right? First of all, we talked about constructors, right? We understand that on this side, right, these brackets, whatever you mentioned here, these are required so that you can make the call for the relevant constructors, which we have already discussed. So I'm not going there. But my only question is about this class name. Why do we need to have class name same on the left and right hand side? See, the complete rule in Java is now let me show you. The complete rule is what you can do is the rule says whatever class you want to have, you want to create an object for, you have to first know that class, right? Let's say I want to create an object for chromium class. So the first thing which you have to do is you have to do something like this. You will do equal to new chromium, because doing this, when you do this, right, then your Java comes to know that okay, which kind of object you really want to create, right? So this becomes mandatory, right? That whatever class you want to create an instance of, you have to mention that class name here. So there is no if and else, I mean if and but over there, right? Whatever class you want to create an object for, you should mention on the right hand side. But what about left hand side? Again, variable name is, again we understand we can do it. Whatever name we want to give, we can give here. This part is something the rule is on. The rule says what you can do is you can either write the exact class name. So you can write here chromium, which will what you're doing here, you're creating an instance of a chromium and you're assigning it to a variable of chromium type, right? This is what you're doing with this line. But one more thing which Java allows is what you can also do is you can write the parent of your child, right? You can write the parent class name on the left hand side, right? Also, and this will also work. So it will like parent class name variable name equals to new chromium, the child name. So syntax looks like this. You will do new child name, whatever child you want to create. So in this case, if I want, I can do something like this. For chromium, I want to create the object, right? So I can write chromium, and here I can do what? I can write browser here. Even this is fine. Now this may look strange for people who have not seen this earlier, but you can see, right, on the right hand side and left hand side, the names are different. Why that would be the case? Because if you are seeing something like this, there are only two possibilities. One, either this is related to inheritance, that thing on the left hand side is like a parent of your is like a parent of this right hand side thing, right? So Chromium is definitely a class because you cannot create an instance of something else. You can only create an instance of a class. Okay, so Chromium has to be a class. And here even browser is a class, right? But why it is different here is because browser would be a parent of Chromium. So you can understand that way. But who who else, or okay, when I say parent, right, that is not correct. What I should say is ancestor. So any ancestor which I mean any ancestor of this child, right? You can write the name here. So in this case, if I talk about Chromium, who is the ancestor of Chromium? Browser. We did this, but even object is the ancestor of this Chromium thing, right? So even you can write something like this. You can write object. Let's say O1 equals to new Chromium. So even this will work. Okay, everyone. You should remember this rule, right? Like why, in which cases you may find left hand side to be different here. Okay. One more thing which we have not talked about is still on an interface. We will talk about when we'll talk about interface. Then I will add one more rule to this condition. Okay. But as of now, we are talking about classes. So let us just discuss about classes only. Okay. So if in the case of classes, this is how you can do it. Now let's try to do it. But if you see, if you do this right, I said what? If you do this Chromium, T1 equals to new Chromium, and if you do a browser, B1 equals to new Chromium, right? There is a big difference. This is both of them are possible, but there's a big difference. What is the difference? The difference is the items which your you can access now. So in this case, you can access some of the items which you cannot access here, right? And vice versa. What are these? This is something which we are going to talk about next. Okay, so you have to understand, although this is allowed, right? But it has an implication. It has an implication on what items you can access now. So let's start doing this first of all. So I have created these instances. I think everyone should be okay with this. So there should not be any concern on this part, right? That these are the simple object creations here. But let me try to do it now. So browser. So I did this, right? See here, I can do something like this also. Browser is a child of what? Object class, right?
Object.
So I can do something like this. I can say, you can see, right? It did not complain. So it works. If I do for Chromium now, okay, let's talk about browser first. So browser is the immediate parent of Chromium, right? So you can do something like this. It does not complain. And browser and for Chromium, right? Who else is the ancestor? The ancestor is the object class, right? So even you can do that. Object O2. You can do this. Okay, it will not complain. Why? Because they follow the same hierarchy tree. See here, right? Right? The same hierarchy tree. So Chromium, if you want to create an instance of Chromium, you can assign it to a variable of browser, or you can assign it to a variable of object, or to the variable of Chromium type itself. Okay, so we can do all three things. Okay, right? Let's go ahead. Let's talk about Chrome. So similarly for Chrome, right? Chrome is sitting here, right? So for Chrome, you can create an instance for Chrome and assign it to a Chrome variable. You could assign it to a Chromium. You could assign it to a browser. You could assign it to an object, right? But can Chrome be assigned to non-Chromium? Can I create an instance of a Chrome class and assign it to a non-Chromium, which is sitting on the right hand side here? Let's see the hierarchy
No.
tree here, right? The structure here. You see Chromium is sitting here. So if you see the path, it goes from here, and then it goes from here, it goes above, right? It is not going here, right? It is not going here. So for this is not allowed. Let's try this actually. So if I'll do non-Chromium and see here, let's say nc1 equals to new Chrome. See, it started complaining. What does it complain? Right? It is saying that you are doing some incorrect assignments. Either change the left hand side or either change the right hand side. Okay. So I hope we are getting the point here, right? So for Chrome, if I want to create the instance, I want whom I can assign. I can assign to Chromium browser object in Chrome also, right? Let's do it for Chrome, and I think that would make this sense. Let's do it this way. So let me copy all this again and place it here. Right, and what I'll do is new Chrome, and let me give the similar kind of name so that we can understand. ch2, ch3, and ch4. Okay, and even here also, let me say c1, c2, and c3. Okay, and in the above case, let me write here b1 and b2. Okay, so that things can be getting cleared here. Now, what I also wanted to show you that there is a difference. Let's talk about this Chrome thing only, right? What method the Chrome had? Let us see. Uh, Open the next split. Let me move this here. See here. What is the method which the Chrome object, the Chrome class had? It had DevTools method, right? If I try to create, if I try to access the methods which ch1 will have, what all methods ch1 should have? Sudhakar?
It will have the methods in Chrome class, and it will have also the parent, whatever the parent class
Hmm.
method we can
So all the
access.
4 classes, right? Chromium, browser, and the object, right?
Yes.
So see here, right, everyone? You can see if I'm creating an instance of a Chrome class, what all access I am having here. You can see I have DevTools, which is directly coming from the Chrome class, which is there. And then I have Open URL, which is coming from the browser class. CLI inspect, this is coming from the, I think, Chromium part, right? Let me just open it. Chromium is having, yes, Chromium has CLI inspect method, right? And right, so these three are there: DevTools, Open URL, and CLI inspect. Let's see this. So DevTools, CLI inspect, and Open URL, right? So all three methods are accessible in the Chrome thing. Why? Because of the inheritance part, right? Now the next part. Okay, so we understand this part, right? That we can access all three methods if we are doing this, right? Creating the, if you're creating the instance of the Chrome class and assigning it to the Chrome itself. Let's talk about this level. What I'm now saying is I'm creating an instance of this Chrome, and I'm assigning it to a variable of Chromium type. Let's see what all methods I can access. So I will write ch2 dot. You see here, I can access CLI. I can access CLI inspect method, which is okay, and I can inspect the Open URL, which is coming from the browser. But I don't see a method DevTools here. You see, I do not have DevTools. Even if I write it here, right? DevTools, it is not there. Why is that the case?
Uh,
See, yeah, please.
the return, whatever we are returning the object,
Hmm.
the, so for example, we are creating object of Chromium, and we are returning to the browser object, browser
Hmm.
reference.
Mm-hmm.
So the browser can hold only the methods of browser class and its parent class. It doesn't have the methods of the child class methods.
Yes, you're right on that part. And just to add on it, right, you have to understand that what is happening here is, although you created an instance of a Chrome class, which is a child here, right, and you are assigning it to a parent, but when you use this here, right, you are saying that create a child, but make it, I mean, make it behave as a parent. Understanding that way, right? So you're saying make instance of a child, but behave as a parent. If someone has to behave as a parent, that parent will not have the behaviors of the child, right? So what is the behavior of a parent here? The behavior is either the method which this class already had, which is the CLI inspect, or something which it is inheriting from the parent, right? Which is the open URL. So what is happening here is, you when you do something like this, right? You're definitely creating the object of a Chrome class, right, which is a child. But you're also saying that don't behave as a child, behave as a parent only. So when you do this, right, you will not be able to access the methods of the child. Okay, whatever has been added there. So in this case, we have added DevTools here, so you cannot access, at least by this way. If you have to access the DevTools, what you should do is, you should assign it to a variable of Chrome type only. So here you're saying what, make instance of child of this class only, right? And behave, and also behave as a child. Okay, this is what you're saying. If you talk about, so this is not allowed here, right? So this is not allowed because of the above reason. If you create the object of a browser now, I mean object of a Chrome, and assign it to a browser, now here you're saying create the object of this class, but behave as a browser. How will it behave as a browser? It will behave like by the methods which that browser class has, or the browser class would have inherited from their own parents, right? So you will here will not be accessed, it will be able to access the DevTools also, and you will also not be able to access the CLI inspect method, which is coming from this Chromium, right? Let's see this. EH3, you can see, right, only method available is open URL, which is coming from the browser class, and all the other methods here are coming from the object class, right? So there is a big difference, right, when you do some assignments like this, right? When you create an instance of a child and assign it to a parent, you are compromising on the behaviors, the access on those behaviors, right, which could have came if you were assigned it to a child directly. Okay, so this is the, I mean, this is one of the learnings which you have to take. You can do this, you can create an instance of a class and assign it to a parent, which is fine as per the rules of Java, but it has an implication that you cannot access the methods of the child anymore, the specific methods which the child had, right? You can only access which methods, the methods, you can access only those methods which are coming from this left hand side thing. Okay, okay, great. What is upcasting and downcasting? Okay, let me first run this, right, just to show you that this really works. What I'll do is, so if I write here ch1.devtools, you can see it works here, right? And here it complains, and here it complains, right? If I try to run this, right, where is the, yeah, here. You see there, right? It is saying it cannot find the symbol, it cannot find the method devtools here. So again, that was the compilation error which it was showing. So this is how it is. But let's say that you, okay, 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 so let's create it on the right hand side now, right? So let's just for the understanding part now, let's do just make it very simple and talk about two classes only, browser class and let's say the Chrome class. Okay, the Chrome class, let's say we have only two classes. Here we have open URL, and here we have only one method, which is DevTools, let's say. Okay, let's say this is the only part we have now. Now, okay, someone wants to ask something. Okay, fine. Here, right? Let's try to see what we can write here. Can I can write this, right? If I want to write browser b1 equals to new browser, I can do this. So there is no issue. Let me write it for children's here, right? Let me say if I have to write Chrome c1 equals to new Chrome, I can do this. Everyone agrees on this part, right? We can do this. Okay, can I do this? If I try to write browser b2 equals to new browser, I told you yes, you can do this because sorry, not browser, Chrome. Yes, we can do it because here Chrome is the child and browser is the parent, right? So we can do it. But can we do something like this? New browser and assign it to a child. Let's say Chrome C2. Let's write C2 here. Can I do this thing? And when we okay, so one is this question. Second question is, I mean, the observation which we understood from now is if you do something like this, what methods you can access? You can only access what method? Open URL. Okay, you can access open URL, but you cannot access DevTools if you use this approach. The second part, this part here, right? You cannot access this by using by using C2. So you can do C2 do this, but you cannot do this, right? Okay. First of all, let's get an answer to this part. Can I create an instance of a parent and assign it to a child? Let's see this. So let me comment this here. Let's do it here, right? So I will say uh, new browser, and let me write what Chrome. Let's say Chrome, and I will say b3 equals to this. Can I do this? You can see it is complaining. I cannot do it, right? It is not allowing me to do it. So directly you cannot do it. You cannot create a parent and then assign it to a child. So as per rules of Java, this is not allowed. Let me go there. So this is not allowed. But but a big but, right? What is happening here is uh, let's talk about the methods which both of them can access. So browser can access open URL and Chrome can access DevTools for sure, and it can also access open URL, right? We understand this part. So if we are assigning something to B2 here, right? Chrome B2 equals to new browser here. So browser has this method, right? This open URL. And Chrome, if I try to see this Chrome also has that open URL, right? Because of this inheritance tree. So why is this not allowed? I mean, this we are trying to access the B2 here, right? By creating the I mean, I'm trying to create the instance of a parent, assign it to a child, and that child already has all the access, all the methods which that parent had. So why it is not being allowed? So as per Java, this is not allowed. Let's remember that this is a rule. This is a rule that you cannot do something like this. But so what is happening here is you are saying that when you do this, right, you are saying make instance of parent but behave as a child. Okay, this is what you're saying here. This is what you're saying here. So if you do something like this, right, behave as a child, it means that you could access the methods which are coming from the child here, which is what DevTools, right, which is DevTools also. So that's why this is not allowing. First of all, right, this is not allowing. This will not allow you. Let's see how we can allow this. How we can allow this, and if we allow, what all methods we can access. We are now talking about casting. Okay, there are two castings here, upcasting and downcasting. Okay, I forget like what is upcasting and downcasting, but I think I will remember once I do this. Okay, so let's see how do you casting, right? What does casting means? Casting means you're converting one thing into another. Okay, something like this. So casting means that I think casting is a word coming from molding, right? That you can mold something into some other shape, something like that, right? So that is what casting is. So how do you do casting here in Java?
Specify Chrome here in brackets.
Right, that is what we do. So you have to use these brackets here, right? And you will write here Chrome. Let's see actually, right? Actually, there are a couple of rules. So you can see the error is gone now. Let me write it again, right? Let me show you. If I do it this again, right? Compare this to this thing. If I write here B3 and this is B4 and I remove Chrome here, right? It is complaining. But as soon as I write Chrome here, it is okay with it. Let's see what methods we can access. If I write B4 here and do a dot, here you can see I am able to access, it is giving me the access to all three methods. DevTools, OpenURL and CLI inspect. DevTools is something which my Chrome browser had, right? This one. So it is giving me access to that also. It is giving me the access to OpenURL also, which is coming from where? Which is coming from browser, and CLI inspect is coming from my Chromium browser also, right? So that middle layer is also been taken care of. It is showing me this. Let's try to see this actually, whether this really works or it just shows up here. B4 dot OpenURL, B4 dot CLI inspect. Let me comment this. Okay, and let me comment the below part also, so to avoid confusion. Okay, nothing here, right? So let's see whether I will be able to print all three things here, right? Let's see this. Let's see what output do we get. We got the error. It is saying class browser cannot be cast to class Chrome. What is happening? Okay, yeah, right. It is saying class browser cannot be cast to class Chrome here. Browser and Chrome are in unnamed module of reader app. Okay, at inheritance demo.main. Okay, so okay, you can see here, right? Even the compiler is not complaining on this, right? But at the runtime, we are getting this exception here, which says that this casting is not possible. You cannot convert your parent into a child. Okay, but by the look of this code here, right, at the compile time, you may get an assumption that okay, this is allowed, but this is not allowed. Okay, at least in this way, this is not allowed. Okay, what is allowed is, let me think, what is allowed. Okay, so Chrome B4 equals to Chrome new browser. So okay, so this is one thing. Okay, let's do the other way around, right? The thing which we learned, what we did was we did something like this. We said new Chrome this, and we did what we said, browser, uh, let's say B3, right? B3 equals to new Chrome, right? Again, this is allowed, but what all methods are accessible here? The methods which are accessible is what? B3 dot only the open URL, right? As we discussed, because B3 is the parent. So at this time, what it will do is it will say make an instance of Chrome, but behave as a parent, behave as a browser. So if something has to behave as a browser, what it will do is it will only access the methods coming from the browser only, which are what? Which is only open URL, right? So you can see here open URL, right? And at the compilation time itself, if I try to access this DevTools, right, thinking that it will be allowed, you can see at the compilation time itself, it stops me there. It says no, this is not allowed. So I cannot write this. But let's say I want to access that method. How can I do it? How can I do it?
We can create object to the Chrome.
I can create the object to the
We
Chrome,
can
which I
return the
No,
okay.
it's Chrome B5 equal to Chrome of browser.
Okay, let me write Chrome B5 equals to
Chrome of, in brackets, Chrome
in brackets Chrome
Just write browser, class name, browser.
Browse.
That's it.
Okay.
New browser.
The browser is the parent, right?
Browser is the is the grandparent of Chrome.
New browser.
I
We have
think
create object to browser. New.
But new browser, I did this part, right? And you can see at the compilation time, it starts complaining that you cannot do it. Right? We saw this exception here.
No, no. For line number 9,
Uh,
if you want to access all the methods in below line number 11 and 12, why
uh,
we can't create an object of Chrome
hmm.
or Chrome, and we can initialize, we can assign new browser to the reference variable. So will that work, right?
Okay.
For
Tell me
example, in
again.
line number 9, 8, we can create a Chrome. Yeah, we have created. Yeah, in line number 9, we can directly assign the new browser to the D3 variable. Can we
When
actualize it?
are you saying I should write here B3?
No, no, no. The browser. No, no. In line number 8, uh, in line
sorry.
number 8, we can initialize the Chrome object.
When you say initialize the Chrome object, you mean I should write Chrome here?
Yes.
Okay, I wrote this. Okay, great. Now what?
We can assign browser object to the B3 variable. Will that work, right? To access the other method.
Akil, make you have created a B3, right? Chrome B3 equal to
We
new
can assign
Chrome.
that browser
So,
object to the B3 variable.
so in the
So
17th
actually,
line, instead of browser, give B3.
Instead of browser, give B3. Where?
17th line.
Here. I should give
Hmm.
B3.
Yeah.
Okay. Now tell me how it is making a difference here. If I write B3, or if I see B3 is accessing what? B3 equals to this value, right? B3 is equals to this value, right?
No,
Whether
no.
you write B3,
Okay. So
Mhm.
you need to create you need to upcast that line. So Chrome
Mm-hmm.
B3 equal to new browser. Chrome B3 equal to new browser.
Okay, let me write new browser.
And then in the 17th line, okay, where
So
we have
this
created.
so this will not. Okay, so first of all, this start completing, right? That you cannot do it.
Can't we do browser? Some before is called new Chrome
Can you please repeat? What should I write?
browser.
Browser.
Some B4, some name B4 or
B
something.
B5, let's say.
B5 is
B6
equal to new Chrome.
equals to new Chrome. Okay.
Yeah, and the next line
Hmm.
you can create a link with it. Chrome.
Hmm.
Give some name.
B.
C something. C C something. Yeah. C4
Mm-hmm.
something is equal to.
Hmm.
I can do Chrome and the bracket
Chrome in the brackets,
and B3. I can link it to B3, right?
and you can link it to B3.
Being in a B6, line number 9 is B6,
B6.
right? Yeah.
B6.
Can do in this way, like
Okay.
parent getting a reference to child.
Yes, you can do it, right? You can do it. But again, what I'm trying to mention here is, like, let's try to read this line again, right? What you did. You did this and you're saying B6 here, right? Let me write here C8. If you write B6 or if I write new Chrome, does it make a difference? No, right? It does not make a difference. Even if you write this or does not write this, right? It does not make a difference there also.
Exactly, because it's anyway an
Chrome
object
only,
of
right?
Chrome.
It's,
Exactly.
it's a,
Mhm.
it is anyhow the object of a Chrome. So,
Okay.
but right, what I want to focus here is what I want to tell you. First of all, I want to tell you that how you can play with this, right? If you want to convert something sitting on the top as a child, a parent as a child, then casting is required. Similarly, if you want to move from bottom to the up, then also casting is required. Okay. Let us now see what is the right way. Okay. What is called upcasting and downcasting, that I get confused with. Like, is it the other approach or the other approach? There's the confusion is there. I'm not confused about like how to achieve it. I'm confused about what do we really call as upcasting. reaching from child to parent or parent to child. Okay, that is the only confusion which I have.
Child
But
to parent is upcasting, right?
child to
Child
parent,
reference. Child having
child
the
to
reference, I guess. Parent.
I think you are right. That is what I also have. But sometimes I felt that okay, this is not what I found in the books. I think it was the opposite of it. But let's say this is what we understand as of now. So if you want to convert a parent to a child, it means we are doing downcasting, right? Okay. So let's first understand about child to parent, right? Which is very simple, which we have understood till now. Let me just remove all of this. This is creating too much of things here. Let me do one thing. Let me just cut it and put it into a different method so that people can refer. Public void, let's say M2. Is there any error here? Yes, this is the error. Let me just comment this out. Okay, so I hope this will become more. Okay. Okay, let me just do it this way. Still, okay, every error is gone. Great. So what we are saying is, let me just collapse this and let me just try to do this now. So let me remove this also. So what we did was, so if we want to do class to class, right? Class to class, how do you do it? I mean, same class to same class. We do something like this. Let me create Chrome. Chrome C1 equals to new Chrome, right, everyone? So we understand this part. Now, when I'm saying I want to create an object of Chrome, which is a child, and I want to assign it to a parent, how do you do it? You do something like this. You say browser is your parent, B1 equals to new Chrome here. So, Fizula, this is what you meant by upcasting, right? You're converting a child into a parent,
Yeah, reference to the parent here.
right? So you are doing converting. So you can understand to perform this, you do not require any casting. This is by default you can achieve, right, everyone? If this is what we call upcasting, let me, okay, I will see you on the net, but afterwards, what is upcasting? So let's say,
No,
so here
okay.
you do not. Mhm.
Okay, using this B1 object, we can downcast now.
Yes, you're right. That is what we'll do.
Yeah.
Now using this B1, we can downcast. Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Now what will happen is, if you see this, we are doing upcasting where we are saying converting child to a parent, right? But as a rule of this, right, you have to understand what you will be able to achieve. You can access methods of that parent only, right? Here you cannot access methods of the child class, right? Because now you did create an instance of a child, but you said that behave as a parent, so it will behave only as a parent, not as a child now. So what all methods are possible? Only one, b1 dot open url. You cannot access something else. Now let's move ahead. Now we are talking about downcasting, right? If we talk about downcasting, which is what? Converting your parent to a child. Convert parent to a child. We understood that by default this is not allowed. You cannot do something like this. Chrome C1, sorry, C2 equals to new browser, right? You cannot, although it will not complain here. Does it? Oh, sorry, it complains here, right? It complains here. So here compilation errors will occur. So this is not allowed. Okay. So in this way you cannot achieve. What is the other objective? What you can do? Uh, what we can do is we can do a downcasting, right? We can do a downcasting like this. We are saying we want to convert our parent to a child, right? So downcasting is this, simply this. You will write here what? Chrome. Okay. And this. Now you have converted your parent into a child. So what all methods you can access? Let me, you see here, you can access, it shows it, I think, okay, we saw this, right? Okay. We saw this. This is also not work, right? The compilation time, it shows that this will work, but this will also not work. Let me write here all the methods. C2 dot CLI inspect, C2 dot DevTools. Okay, so even this is not allowed. Although it compilation, no compile issues, no compilation issues, errors, but runtime errors, right? You will get runtime error here. So let me write here, right? If we try to run this, right, we got this error only. So let's run this. You will get an exception saying this part only, right? That you will generate a runtime exception generated, right? So even this approach cannot help us, right? So the direct downcast is not allowed. Direct, so direct downcast is not allowed, which is Chrome C2 equals to new, which is this thing, right? So this is the direct downcast, or let's say default downcast. So default downcast is not allowed. Default downcast is not allowed. And if you wanted to the specific downcast, right, which you're doing here by doing this, right, even this is not allowed. Specific downcast not allowed at a runtime. Okay, so even this is not possible. So as of now, we are getting to the point that we cannot convert a parent into a child. Okay, we cannot do it. We cannot do it as of now till what we have learned. Okay, let's use this approach, right? Here what we have done is we have created the instance of our child, and we are trying to assign it to a parent, right? And this is what we said, that we are trying to upcast here. Now using this, right, using this, what you can do is, using this b1 thing, you see what all methods you can access till now. You can access only b1.open URL here, right? I still want to access the other methods which I could have got if I was a Chrome, right? But now I'm not getting it. So how will you get it? You will do something like this. You will simply do Chrome, right? And you will write b1. You see, DevTools. The other method was dot open URL. The other method was CLI inspect. Right? We got all this, and let's just run this and see whether this works or not. Let me comment this out. So let's run this. Earlier you can see using b1 I was only able to access open URL, but let's see, can we access all three methods, which is like the part of this this thing here. Let's see if I run this, right? I can access it, right? I can access all three here. So try to understand here, right? The only feasible part in Java is that you can create an object of a child and assign it to a parent, which is fine. But but if you do this, you can only access the method coming from that parent. But if you want to access the methods, right, coming from the child, or somewhere in the between, right, if you want to access them also, what you have to do is you will have to again convert whatever you have converted till now, right? So whatever you have whatever you have right now, you will have to again make a conversion of it, right? And why this will allowed here is, see here what I have done. So b1 became b1 is a browser here, right? B1 is a browser, it's not a Chrome anymore. But because of this new Chrome, right, it it knew that I am referring to the Chrome object, right? The Chrome object. So I do have the access to the methods of the Chrome, but because I am a browser, I cannot access it. You're understanding this, right? Here you said that you want to create an instance of a Chrome browser. I mean a Chrome thing. You created it, but you but since you're assigning it to a browser, which is a parent, the rule comes into the picture saying that this is a Chrome thing, but because you're a browser, you cannot access this method, right, of the Chrome, which is a child here. But okay, let me show it in the drawing thing. I think it would be much better here. So if you do this, right, browser b1 equals to new Chrome. As soon as you do this, right, this compiler and the JVM, right, will first try to understand what do you mean by new Chrome. So let's say it created a bucket here, and it said, okay, let's see what all I can access through Chrome. I can access DevTools. I can access DevTools. I can access OpenURL, and I can access what I can access as CLI, right? CLI inspect, whatever that was, CLI inspect method, right? I can access all three. But if I'm a browser, what I can access? I can only access one thing, which is DevTools, right? Here, what I said was that B1 can access only this, right? So what is available from this here? It is this part, right? So it can access only this because B1 was a browser. But if somehow you can convert this B1 to a Chrome now, right? Right? If you can do that, then you would be able to access these two also now. And how do you do it? You do it this way. You say you will use B1 here, right? So B1 is the object here, and you will try to convert this into a Chrome. You did this, right? Right. Now your B1 has converted to a Chrome. So if you want, you can do something like this. You can say Chrome C1 because your B1 object, right, will now behave as a Chrome. Why? Because if you write it here, if you do it here, right, what is B1? B1 is this only, right? New Chrome. New Chrome. So try to understand what is happening here. If you do something like this, right, it is similar to this also. Chrome C1 equals to new Chrome, right? It is like a mathematical equation, right? Where I'm just trying to fit in what B1 is equals to, right? I'm just fitted here, and then I'm saying, oh, okay, this looks like this. Okay, this seems redundant, so I removed it also. So ultimately, this is what I received. Chrome C1 equals to new Chrome, and this is perfectly fine, right? And now since C1 is there, what all methods I can access? I can access everything which is available inside the Chrome, which is this, right? So again, right, try to understand here. If you did this, right, we did what? We did something like this. Chrome B1, Chrome. I did something like this. Chrome and B1. Right now, in the same line, I also wanted to access the methods. So how can you access the method? I cannot put a dot here. No, this will not be a valid syntax then. What you have to do is you have to put everything inside this, right? Then now this B1 became a Chrome. Otherwise, if you do this only Chrome B1 and do a dot on it, right? Here what will happen is it will still consider that you're working on B1. What is B1 here? Browser. So it will only access what method? Only the DevTool method. But if you put everything inside the bracket, now this became a Chrome. Okay, this entire thing became a Chrome, and you're doing a dot on this bracket. And if you try this, you will see DevTools here. But try to understand. I'm this is like a shortcut only, right? But ultimately, this is what is happening. If you do this thing first, right, you receive C1, and then you can do simply like this. You can do C1 dot DevTools, C1 dot open URL, right? This is what it is happening here. Just a second. Right, everyone? I hope this is making sense. Okay. Why the other case did not work, which is the parent to the child, right? The parent to the child. Let's look at that diagram also. If I write something like this, Chrome uh, C1 equals to new browser. I was trying to do this. First of all, this is not allowed in Java. So as per the rules of Java, you cannot convert your parent into a child like this. So this is not allowed. So the first thing which I have to do is it says, okay, let's first create the boundaries here. So being a browser, what you can access? You can access DevTools only. Sorry, not DevTools, OpenURL, right? And here being a Chrome, what can you access? You can access OpenURL. You can access CLI inspect. You can access DevTools. right? Now I'm saying, as per the rules of Java, this line itself is not allowed. You cannot convert your parent into a child. So you cannot convert your parent to a child. You cannot do this. This is not allowed. Okay. So downcasting, let's say this way, is not allowed. If this is what downcasting means, right? So this is not allowed. So what is allowed? What you can do is you can convert your browser into a Chrome, right? As per the rules of casting, right? And you can write something like this. So here you may think, okay, I am converting my browser to a Chrome, okay, because this is allowed. So I can do this. Why this is being allowed? Because you're assigning it to a Chrome. That's why it became, see, when you're doing a downcasting, right? It says whatever you're providing here, can this be, will this matches to the left hand side? So as per the rules of Java, right, this matches here. So that's why your compiler did not complain. But let me do one more thing here. If I go back and if I do something like this, we were doing where? Okay, down we were doing here, right? We were doing here. So we were doing this part, right? Not this part, this part. We were doing it here, right? C2 equals to this and all that, right? If I use something else, let's say I use not Chrome, I will use uh, okay, let's use Chrome only. Let's use Chrome, and I will not Chrome actually. Okay, let's say that I am trying to create the instance of a Chromium. Okay, I'm trying Chrome non Chromium, right? Non Chromium also is a child of browser, right? So let me first write here. Now see this. This is going to be interesting. Let's see. If I try to create instance of non Chromium class, non Chromium and see 1 equals to new browser, it does not allow because this is not allowed in Java. How can this be allowed? We see that compilers allows this if I write non Chromium. If I write non Chromium here, right? This is allowed, but again we know that compilation errors are not coming, but they at the runtime it will complain that you are trying to access something, right? And why this became applicable is because because when you write something here, right, it tries to see what value we are getting assigned to. If that matches, right, or if somehow it is in the hierarchy tree there, it allows us to write such code. But what is happening here, right? So this allows here, right? But again, when we try to access it from there, right, it will not be able to access the methods which are coming from anywhere. Now let's say that I do something like this. If I write Chrome, right, Chrome here, can I do this? I cannot write a line like this. Why this is not allowed? We think, okay, we are converting a browser to a child, which is Chrome. Okay, we understand this part, we are doing it. Okay, great. So this seems logical, but to whom we are assigning? We are assigning to a known Chromium. What is known Chromium to a Chrome? Nothing, right? There is no relation. There is no relation. So that's why the compilation also starts throwing error. Okay, I could not find a relation here. Why are you doing this? So it starts complaining. But if you write, so how the browser would be happy here? This would be happier if you write here Chrome first. So it will not complain. This is okay with it. If you write here Chromium, it will not complain. This works here. If you write browser here, then also it will not complain, right? It will not complain in any of these cases. Okay. And if we try to access this now and see one dot, you can see, right, what method I can access? Only the open URL, which is coming from the browser part, right? And if I use Chromium here, okay, let me just do it. I think it would be a nice thing for this also. Open URL. And if I do NC2 and I do Chromium here, and I do nc2 dot thing, right, you will find that it will be able to access CLI inspect also, and it will be able to inspect the open URL, but it will not be able to get what the method coming from Chrome. And for the Chrome, we have already seen that it will not work, right? So we have already seen this part. So this is here. Let's see whether these also works or not. This does not work, we know, right? Let me comment this. Let's see whether these works or not, and let me comment the above things also. See why we are learning downcasting and upcasting, because you would be requiring them. You need, when you take screenshot in Selenium, when you work with JavaScript with Selenium, right? This is what happens. It does such operations there. It performs downcast and upcasting there, right? So we have to understand what really is happening there. Okay, and we are learning in the context of the inheritance here. We are not talking in terms of interface yet. If once we start discussing about interface, then also we will have to discuss about all this again. Okay, we'll talk about it, but let's just first run this, and let's run this. You see, it started saying you cannot do this. As simple as that. It starts saying this: browser cannot be cast to Chrome. It failed here itself. It is failing at this line itself. It is not going to the left hand side. You understanding? In the compilation, it did not catch this, because it saw, okay, I can do a casting here. But here, when it came to the runtime, it found out, okay, the browser is a parent and you're trying to convert it to a child, which is not allowed in Java. So it starts complaining. So neither of these cases will work. Okay, if you try to convert your parent to a child like this, right, it will not work. What will work is, if somehow you have converted your child to a parent, right, then it works. Otherwise it does not work in Java. Right, so the only operations which can help you or which works in Java is this: you create the instance of a child and assign it to a parent. In this case, this is what is happening is you are doing upcasting. This is a by default upcasting here, right? Whether you write this or you write something like this, whether you do this or do this, both are example of upcasting and both are doing the same thing, nothing special. Okay, both lines are equivalent, right? Both are achieving the same thing. Here also B1 will be able to access open URL, and even B2 will be able to access what? Open URL only. You can see. Okay, so upcasting, if you have to do an upcasting can happen like this. If you have to do a downcasting, you have to understand here, for the downcasting also, you have to make sure that somehow this is what has been done, already been done somewhere, and then you can convert your browser, this B1, into a Chrome here like this. Okay, but you can understand what is really happening. If I look at this line, see, this is what downcasting is. Here downcasting is happening. Here downcasting is happening. But try to understand internally what is happening is, let's see what is B1. B1 equals to new Chrome. Let's copy this. Let's copy this line, mention it here. Instead of B1, I can also write this part, because B1 is that part thing only, right? So if I do this, it still works. If I remove now, right? So what we are saying, we are trying to create the instance of a Chrome, and we are saying that convert it to a Chrome. What does that mean? It's like a redundant thing, right? So I do not need to write this. What I can write is, I can simply write this also, new Chrome. Now when I'm doing this, there is no need of these brackets also. What I can do this, I can remove those brackets. I can simply do this. If I can, let me see. Can I do this? Or I have to create the instance of a class? No, I can do this, right? So you're understanding, right? What is really happening here? And this we are terming it as downcasting. First we upcasted, and then on that upcasted value, we are doing downcasting, right? So downcasting is only allowed, is only allowed, is only allowed, allowed, is only allowed on is only allowed when you have already done upcasting, right? Now what you did was, you first converted a child to a parent, and then you were just saying that, okay, I have changed my mood, I want to convert back to a child. That is what is happening. Okay, so it is very simple here. Let me write the complete. So the crux of everything is that you have a parent here and you have a child here, right? First in the first case, right, you said, I will convert a child to a parent, which is called what? Upcasting. And then you're saying that, okay, I'm done with my work of parent, now I will convert that same parent into a child. This is called downcasting. But try to understand, this starts from here, right? From a child to a parent. So it starts like this. You will have to do new child equals to parent P. In that case, only things can work. If you do the other way, if you start, so the starting point is this, right? This is the zeroth position. So zero, from here, the first upcasting can be done, and then downcasting can be done. But if you think that you try to do something like this, parent, child, and this, and you say, okay, I will start from here, and first I will downcast, and then I will do upcast. This does not work, because when you do this, right, here itself it will throw an error, right? The compilation error, or the other runtime error. So what is allowed is, this is allowed. You start from the child, you create the instance of a child, assign it to a parent. This is called upcasting, and then you can move back to a child again by performing these downcasting operations. Okay, everyone. Any questions? Everyone is there, right? Or people left? Okay. Where is my thing? Right? Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. Azhar, is it clear to you? Azhar, you there?
Yes, Akhil. Yeah, I will watch the session one more time, Akhil. Yeah, because it
No,
has
I
lots
didn't.
of yeah, I'll
This
try
is
to watch it one more time and I'll ask you doubts.
Yep. Sure. Right.
Yeah.
But again, try to understand, this is what upcasting and downcasting is. Okay. Now,
Okay.
one more thing. Okay. Let me add one more dimension. We are currently working with these objects, right? These custom objects, which we are trying to do an upcasting and downcasting on, right? We have already seen this upcasting, downcasting somewhere in our initial chapters. We have seen this in the case of primitive data types also,
Data types.
right? We have seen there also. Let me show
Intel
you that.
log.
Yes. Let me show you now, right? Again, let me just give you one example of it. Let me share my screen again. Okay. Now see this, right? What I'll do is, if you create a let's say, so we understand this hierarchy, right? If I talk about int family, right? How does it start? It starts from byte, because that is the smallest part of it. Then it goes to short, then it goes to int, and then it goes to long, right? That is how the hierarchy is, right? And similarly, we have float, double, and then we have char also, and then we have boolean also, right? And then let's take the string case also, right? Now what I'll do is, I'll create a byte variable, byte b equals to, let's say, uh, 10, right? Now this is byte b equals to 10, right? Let's say I want to assign this value to a int. If I do int a equals to b, you can see this is allowed. Why? Because size of int is big enough, so whatever value byte may have, it will be able to grab it. So there is no issue here, right? So you can understand that you are doing an upcasting here, right? Byte being a small value or a child of the int thing, right? So you can understand, like, int is the parent and byte is the child of it. So here what is happening? Upcasting is happening. Upcasting is happening here. Upcasting is happening, right? You are moving from child to a parent, right? Byte being a child and int being a father of it, let's say, right? So this is how it works. So there, no casting is required. It happens automatically. You don't have to do any casting. But if you wish, you can do it. You can write here int also. You see, it does not complain. It works here also. Let's do the opposite of it. Let's say int d equals to 10. Okay. And I will do what? I will now assign this to a byte. So I'm converting a bigger value and trying to assign it to a data type which holds which can hold a lesser value, right? So let me say e here, and I will do what? I will say e equals to d. You see, it starts complaining. It says you are trying to put a variable which can hold a big value, and you're trying to assign it to a variable, a data type which can hold a smaller value, right? So it is like you're trying to move from a parent to a child, and we just saw that from a parent to a child, what is called as downcasting. So this is downcasting here, but you can see this is also not allowed. If you want to allow this, right, what you can do is, if you try to do this byte thing here, right, here in this case of this primitive data type, right, this is allowed, this will still work, right? But if there is a value which cannot be fit in the byte, right, it will, we already seen this, right? We have seen that it converts this to a hexadecimal value, and then it removes the last set of bits, right? And it can see byte can hold only how many bits? Only 8 bits, right? So after converting 10 into a hexadecimal value, right, and I mean that binary value, right? After converting that 10 into a binary value, right? And if let's say the number of bytes are more than 8, so all the extra bits would be removed, and then you have a, and then there's a chance that you may lose some of the values of it, right? What you're providing. But this is like you're taking a risk, right? You're taking a risk here, but here this is allowed. It will not complain. But if you try to do it directly here, right, it will say this is not allowed. You can see here byte f equals to d. So default downcasting is not allowed. Okay, default casting not allowed. Okay, this is not allowed, but this is allowed. Okay, now so this is under, this is like within the same family we are doing all of this. Let's try to do with the string family, right? Again, the rules of castings are already defined in Java. So based on that rule, right, everything will work. Let's create a variable. Let's say, okay, let me say, I already have a value of d here, right? Let me assign this d to a string. If I write here d, right, it complains. Okay, it says what? Wrap using string dot value of. Okay, it says it. Okay, it needs this string here. Okay, so what I can do is, okay, yes. Okay, so for string, I think okay, it's under double quotes only. Okay, okay, so string is not a good example, I believe. Then let me remove this. String is not a good example.
Double.
Yes, let's say double. Let's say float, right? So float also. So if you say float f g, right, equals to 5.67 f. If you do this, and so float, for float, right, it's a different family and int is a different family, although both of them takes I think 32 bits only to save the space, but these are two different families. So it's like if you convert into a float or a float to int, let's see how it works. So if I create float g, right, if I do int h equals to g, it complains here, right? It says, what does it say? It says that float is required. So if the float is required, what you can do is you can write here int, and you are here saying that okay, I know that this is g is a float, but please convert that float into a int. Okay, so what will happen once this operation will happen? It will remove these decimal values and just keep 5 there, and it will assign it to a h. Okay, so again, these are just different casting rules here when it comes to the primitive data types. Since we are discussing the casting, upcasting, downcasting, so I thought it would be better to explain this again. And one last thing is, let's say I want to convert a int to a float, like this only, right? So let me write float I. So let me assign it to a value of d here, right? D is 10 here. So you can see if I write d here, it will not complain. This is allowed here. Okay. So you can understand, right? There is no logic here. These are just different rules here, right? You have to understand the conversion of a float. Let me say conversion of float to int is not directly allowed. Not allowed. Okay. What you can do is you can specifically do this casting. Okay. So you can specifically do the casting. Specific casting. You can achieve this if you do the casting here, specific casting here. Otherwise, it is not allowed. But here in this case, if you want to convert uh, int to float, then this is allowed. Okay, but these are just different rules in Java which you have to remember. Let's say you want to convert your Boolean value. Is there any rule around it? Boolean, let's say j equals to true. Can I assign this to a variable of int, the j equals to k equals to j? No, I cannot do it. Can I convert it into an int? No, I can still not do it. Why I cannot do it? Because Java says you cannot do it, right? But again, if you think about logically also, right, this does not make any sense. So that's why it's not allowed. Okay. And can you assign an int to a Boolean value? Can you do this, something like this? No, right? You cannot do it. If you say, okay, no, I'm saying this is a Boolean. Can you do this? Again, you cannot do it because this is not logical. So understand, right? The casting rules when it comes to primitive data types, these are like you will have to play with them and you will try but you will understand eventually, right? Within the same family, right? You can convert from top to bottom or bottom to right, bottom to down, right? So again, that is where upcasting and downcasting will come, and but you have to take care that if you put a higher value to a lower value, then you have a risk of losing some of the values from it, right? And when you try to move from cross the families, let's say float to a int, then you have to understand there are some rules being applied. So you will have to adhere to those rules, and only then things can work. Okay. Okay, I think now I'm done. I wanted to cover the protected access modifier also, but I think it will take a lot of time, so I will not do it today. So we'll talk about protected access modifier tomorrow, and I wanted to cover polymorphism. So let's cover polymorphism tomorrow. Okay. So these are the two topics which I will have, which I have focus in for tomorrow, and let's cover it. And on Thursday we will cover the abstraction and the encapsulation. Yes, Fizula, please.
I'll just add a point over here. Actually, I think in terms of data types, we also tell them as widening and narrowing, right? The upcasting is called widening.
Right.
And then, yeah.
Right, you're right. So when you say widening, right, you're trying to convert a small value to a bigger value, as the name says, widening, right, Fizula?
Yes.
And when
Upcasting.
you say, right. So if what she said is, she said only this part that when it comes to primitive data types, right, there are some other terminologies which are involved. There are narrowing. So narrow means that you have a bigger value and you try to fit in a small value, right? You're trying to do this, something like this. So you're narrowing. And widening is
Your screen is not shared.
my this is okay. So what I'm saying is when you say narrowing, right, you're trying to convert this value into a smaller value, right? Smaller thing. So you're narrowing. And when you say widening, right, you have a smaller thing and you trying to fit in a bigger space, which is allowed, right? So you can fit a small thing into a bigger thing, which can be allowed, but you cannot fit a big thing into a small thing. All right. And in terms of primitive data types, these are the terminologies, but understand what is happening here is you're trying to do an upcasting here. This is like similarly upcasting, you're moving up, right? And here this is like downcasting, which is not allowed by default. But if you still mention it, right, if you still try to do it, Java will allow to do it, but you will have a risk of losing some of your things, right? In this case, what you can fit is you can only fit this kind of range. This will be missed, and this will be getting you will lose access to this if you try to do this operation here. And if you do this, you are anyhow be able to fit the small value into a big, right? This is what narrowing and widening means. Okay. Now I think I will go. So okay, so I think we are good for today. Let's meet tomorrow. And just a reminder, Friday is off. Okay, so we will not have a class on Friday, but I do plan to cover our OOPS concept covering tomorrow and the Thursday, right? So considering those 2 days, we should be good to cover the OOPS concept. And then we will be moving to the next week around exception handling and some of the other small areas. but our focus would be majorly on corrections next week. Okay, so we have this week. Please, whoever has missed some of the recordings or wants to revise something, please keep revising, as another assignment would be floated on Thursday. So let's see how it goes. Okay, thank you so much. Good night. Let's meet tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks, Vikal. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.